Hey everyone, while working on this ship, I made a script to show all the inventory on one display. Uh, and I figured I'll just take it out and publish it separately because others might find it useful. Here's how it works. So obviously you need a computer, in which you put the script. I like to call these things computers, so I'm going to say inventory. So I paste the script. Now in the script, in the beginning there's a little bit of setup. The display block name is the name of the block of the display that you want to show the inventory on. If you leave it empty, it shows it on the computer blocks display. For more complicated blocks like control seats and stuff, we have multiple displays. Then you specify the name here, and you specify the surface index here. If it's at -1, it ignores the index and treats the block name as a surface name. Then you can set up some colors, and then you can set up some limits. I'll talk about this later. And this is very plug and play. All right. So straight away you see, and let me change the lighting a little bit. There we go. That the inventory doesn't fit. The reason it doesn't fit is because I made a choice not to hard code the value of the text size, but to use the one from the display. The only problem is, if you switch the content to text and images, you don't see the output of the script, and if you switch it to the script, you don't get a text size slider, which would have been nice. So it's more interactive than changing it in the code or recompiling, but it's less interactive than if you had the slider in here. But since I changed it, you see that now you have the whole inventory on the display. And that's a little bit too small. There we go. Not bad. You can kind of see it. If you put a separate screen, which is what I want. Alright, so let's put a cargo container here, and on this side let's put a display here. I prefer this one. To me it looks like something that I would have in a real world. Those giant ones feel a little tacky, but that's personal preference. Anyway, so now we go to the computer. We gotta name this something, so we're gonna say LCD, for example. And then here we go into the settings and say inventory LCD. Check code. Okay. Again, the same thing. So we go into the display thing, we go into text and images, and we adjust the font size. I know here for a fact that it's 0.38, because that's what I designed it at for the ship. There we go. So I have my inventory all laid out on one display, which is what I wanted. This is not the solution. Probably if you have a really complicated system with lots of piping, lots of sorting and all of that stuff, and you want more detailed information. I am not really into that in this game, and I don't really understand it too well. Like, I got into the inventory, I got my head around it because I had to for the script, because I had to go into all the numbers and stuff. But in general, that's not my sort of area of expertise. So if there's something that I'm missing, and there's something obvious, that people with lots of experience with inventories would like to see in this display, let me know in the comments below. So for the time being, oh, by the way, the script right now can't show this on more than one display. So for instance, this one is dead at this point, and it's probably better to just switch it to text and images, and then it shows nothing. So now that I did not just cut away for about 20 minutes to fix a silly bug, let's add some stuff.
Energy low.
Let's add 5 tons of iron. So now you can see that the system has a bunch of iron in it. Let's add... What is going on? Let's add a bunch of nickel. So now you have nickel and iron. This is a good time to explain the colors. Now the colors you can change. They're all customizable in the setup. But why is something white and why is something red? I put limits for each of the components and the ores that you can set up where below that limit, it could be 0, it can be a little bit above. I put it at 100 for everything right now. It's just the value that I put in there. You can change it to whatever you need. Below that, it'll show up as red, meaning you're out, or you're gonna run out. So that's why I put it at 100. Because even if you have a little bit, you're probably gonna run out. The reason I made all the limits separate is that you don't need as many basic grinders as you do steel plates, obviously. You don't need as many data pads as you do hydrogen bottles, and so on. Same for the ores. You don't need as much stone as you do iron. And the limit for the cutoff for the warning should probably be a lot higher in iron, but it depends on your situation. Let's process it. So we're going to add a refinery to the system. First thing you'll see is that there's now a refinery label at the bottom. What that does is if you turn off the refinery, it'll show up as gray. And in the system with multiple refineries, it's going to show up as on if any one of the refineries is on. And like I said, this is a comprehensive view of an entire system, and it's fine for a small system. For a larger system, you may want something more detailed. In case you have sort of like, let's say, 2 or 3 refineries, and you're not at the separating stage yet, you're just processing a bunch of stuff, this will be fine for you. So let me turn it back on. And now you see what's being processed. And you see that there's a bunch of stuff, but only one thing is being processed at a time. And this is crucial for things like, let's say we get a bunch of, magnesium. And somebody in our faction starts processing the magnesium without telling us. Let's set that up. Yeah, let's get all the magnesium. Right. And so it's processing the really, really slow magnesium. And then you order up a bunch of parts, which you can't because you have no assembly. Let's add an assembly. So I'm going to queue up a bunch of steel plates to show the folks. So you see that there's a green arrow to show that it's queued up, and now there's a thick green arrow to show that what is being assembled, and on the left side you see the green arrow which shows what is being used as far as ingots. So I queued up a bunch of steel plates. The steel ingots are being used up. Let me actually queue up a bunch more so they're used up faster. Alright, so you see that it's coming up on empty. And as soon as it gets below 100, which is the default, no, it's not the default. Oh, right, this is something else that I need to explain. What I guess what I decided to do is I show it as white if you have either enough ingots or enough ore of that type. Enough being above the limit, above the threshold. Because I'm assuming that if you have the ore, you can make the ingots. Again, I don't have enough experience with inventories. If that's not the case, if it should be red because it's 0, let me know. I just figured they're kind of linked. The other thing I probably should do is link scrap to iron, so that, you know, in this case, scrap would also be white right now. But I just didn't do that because I figured that it's a separate weird thing. What you can see at this point is that there's something that's queued up, and then there's something that's missing. So the red arrow on the left, the small arrow, is indicating the thing that you need right now because you have something queued up. And also you see the yellow arrow showing what is being refined. And this way you kind of see exactly the problem straight away just by looking at the screen. So you can now go into your refinery and say, dude, I need more iron right now. And then you just move the yellow arrow, see if there's that delay. But I think that's worth it because there's enough of a change that in most cases it visually works well enough. I mean, these arrows work really simply. They compare the previous quantity to the current quantity, and if they differ, they show the arrow. The 100 of ticks is enough to gather some info that in most cases it works, as if it were something more sophisticated. You could do it at every 10th, but then the arrows might flicker a little bit more in some cases. I kind of like it at 1/100 just because it's lighter on the system too. So right now we're below the threshold, and magically we have exactly the number of steel plates that I queued up. That's kind of insane. Oh right, because I had 5,000 kilos of so 5,000 kilos of iron translate to 500 steel plates. That is, wait, really? Really? That is weird. Alright, so let me queue up some metal grids. I queued up some metal grids, and you see now that I'm missing two things. I'm missing iron and I'm missing cobalt. So let me put in some iron. I'm sorry for these long videos. I just feel like if I explain everything in detail, there will be fewer questions. Let's get some iron and let's get some cobalt. So now, again, we have a bunch of stuff. And I guess the reason I added the red arrows initially was to show that, look, everything is apparently supposedly white, but it's not. There's a problem. What's the problem? Well, the yellow thing is in between the two red arrows, so even visually you see that something's not matching up. So, we need to tell nickel to take a hike. And also magnesium. What the hell is going on? Cobalt. There we go. I can also queue up a bunch of other stuff. I can, in the meantime, I guess, queue up a bunch of other stuff. Let's get some computers and some displays and some detectors and some, I don't know what else. Whatever, that's fine. I mean, you get the point. Here, I got a bunch of stuff queued up, and I have something that is being made right now. That will take into account not only the difference from the last update, but also the current queue of the assemblers. So that's a little bit more real time than some of the other arrows. And I also think this is cool because, you know, the first point of UI is to be useful, and the second point of UI is to be pretty, as with everything, I guess. So these blinking lights get a little, you know, give a little more of that blinky blink that we like in our sci-fi-ish stuff. I guess that's basically it. You know, I still have some questions that I don't know if I don't know the answers to. For example, I'm going to do this. No, I'm going to do this so you can see what I'm talking about because I have the cursor. This space between the all right, I'm using short names for everything because. Like, what's the point of using long names for everything? First of all, you know, elements on the left are already commonly known by their, you know, Latin abbreviations. The stuff on the
Energy
right...
critical.
All right, okay, it's a little bit weird at first, but then you can figure it out. I tried to get the letters just right, you know, that, like, in relation to each other and stuff, it's easy to understand what you're looking at. CC is construction component, MG is metal grid, it's not that hard. SST is small steel tube, LST is large steel tube. You can go into the code and change this if you want, you can make it full words. I was actually thinking of making it an option, but that only, I think, makes sense on a wide LCD, you know, the two block one. But, again, don't really see the point. The last thing I'm going to show is that if you add an oxygen generator, you also have the oxygen generator indication. So this way, on the screen, you see if your assemblers, at least one of them is on, if your refineries, at least one of them are on, and if your generators, at least one of them are on. And because I'm using blue for the oxygen generator, just like blue, you know, oxygen, whatever. If I now put some ice in there, well, incoming, you didn't get to see that, I think, but that was a blue arrow as well. Everything on the very left is going to be blue when it's coming in. That's my sort of raw color. But also, if, for example, I make... I never make these, so I don't have it stored. I'm going to put it over here. A hydrogen tank. Check this out. The arrow that you get is blue, not yellow. I figure yellow is for, you know, things that are being refined, and ice is not really being refined. It's, I don't know, blue. It just kind of made sense. It can be changed. I think it's fine. Anyway, that's about it. I think it's a nice, comprehensive overview of a not too complicated system. I think it's good for starting bases, especially during survival, because it's nice to be able to just have one point of reference for what you're doing and not to have to keep looking through the menus and that sort of thing. And then everybody can look at the same thing at the same time. Maybe this needs the ability to be shown on multiple screens from the same computer. I don't know how complex this script is while running as it is. Maybe this could be doubled to, or tripled. I don't know. That would have to be changed in the setup. It's not difficult at all. But let me know in the comments. Another question I have for the comments is, so the ice has been refined, and it's now all in the hydrogen tank. The hydrogen tank has a fill value, which might be useful to show in this script as well. Or not, I don't know. I haven't worked with hydrogen enough. Please let me know in the comments if hydrogen is something you would like to see here. There is some space available on the left. If you have suggestions for how it could be, like the important parts of,
Energy critical.
well, let me just think through this while I'm recording the video. So, there are hydrogen tanks. Okay, I'm just going to ignore the hydrogen bottles. They're going to show up as components and whether or not they're filled. Well, I don't think that's an important part of the system. I have hydrogen tanks. And I guess I have the engines, whatever they're called, hydrogen engines. So let's just consider tanks. They have a how much hydrogen they have and how much they contain. Okay, this is a good maybe point to talk about the UI a little bit and why. I don't have any progress bar like things here, and I don't have any boxes, and that would be incredibly easy to do. I know that a lot of other scripts do that kind of stuff. I just figured that the thing about UI is you can also have too much information. Like, this is an insane amount of information that I put on this screen, and I put a lot of work into letting it breathe so that at various distances you can tell things apart. The fonts are blurry as hell. That also has to be taken into consideration. And like, already so much is crammed in here that that I think only the essentials are important. What does a progress bar show you? It shows you how much you have in relation to how much you can have. The thing is, especially in a survival situation towards the beginning of your experience in the game, on a server, for example, the amount of stuff you will have is so small compared to the amount of stuff you can have, that it's just
energy.
Like, you're going to have these huge spaces in your filled bars that it's useless information. It's like, it's wasted space essentially. As these bars get filled, then you have a different problem. Then you have remaining space, which now doesn't make any sense because you know how much of everything you have, but you don't understand how much of what you can still squeeze in where. The other alternative without using graphic-y things, is to put a number / the maximum number, which is exactly what you have here. But, like, why? I don't understand this as far as a unit of information. This tells me absolutely nothing. This tells me things sometimes when planning, let's say, strategy. This is for tactics. I need to know how much stuff I have and how long it'll last, right? Knowing how much stuff I could have had is not as important. It's secondary information. And then, the sort of percentages, like, this is a really wide line of text that is being used up for something that could be half as long, or like, 2/5 as long, the thing in the middle, this thing. For a lot of the cases, not for all the cases, obviously, and that's maybe also for the comments below. So I went for just the important stuff. With hydrogen, I don't know how to measure the important stuff. So maybe everything I just said is just bullshit, and all of that stuff makes sense and is super important, etc. But if you have an idea of how to show hydrogen and what is important in hydrogen in the spirit of what I've done in this script, also let me know in the comments, please. And then if it's important, I can add it and just re-upload the blueprint. One last thing is on the right, you can also see arrows when you're losing parts, components. Like I said, initially the system was designed for the ship, and the ship has a crane, and the crane expends parts as is being used. So I needed to see, or like this is a 2 crew member ship, so I needed for the other person to be able to see, if they're down here, that certain parts are moving out of the system. So I just thought of a silly way of doing that. Here. I'm going to get a sorter, and I'm going to get a connector. And I think you know where this is going. What do I have a lot of? I have a lot of steel plates. So I'm going to say, you know what? I'm going to put a bunch of steel plates into the system because I think they may fall out too fast. I don't know, but let me just see. I just want to show you the arrow. So, let's do 50,000 steel plates. No. Spawn into target. There we go. What's going on? That didn't work. I don't know how to use this thing apparently. 50,000 steel plates. Wait, what is this thing? Well, this is an oxygen generator. Right. Steel plates. Into target. How many steel plates do I have now? I have a lot of steel plates. Not as many as I was hoping for, but alright. Well, maybe my whole rant about... You know what? I may be wrong. I think for the first update, well, this is interesting. Let's see. I have a cargo container which has a lot of steel plates. And then this thing is also almost full. So this is basically the same question as for the hydrogen and oxygen. The the remaining space in containers is shared among all the components. Because my original thought just now was to draw those same sort of progress bars, the filled bars, under each component or under each number. That's easy to do. But the question is, what exactly am I drawing? Because they all share the same empty space. This probably sounds like I'm not making any sense. It makes complete sense in my head. So, okay, right now there is cargo container and there is an assembler, and those are the only things that can contain parts. The cargo container is completely full, and the assembler is like, 75% full or something like that. So the whole system is almost completely full, right? On this screen, I need to show somehow that it's completely full. How do I do that? And while you're thinking about that, I am going to say, no, I'm going to go to my sorter first, and I'm going to say, why don't you whitelist steel plates, please? Can I do SP? Nope. That'd be really useful. Add. I can't do that. Add. Alright. And now I can throw out, select all. There we go. And so we should see a red arrow. It's not red, it's a little tiny bit orange just to separate it from the red of missing. But yeah, so when you're leaking components, you see that. So if somebody's stealing something, I don't know what the, And that's pretty much for this script. Sorry for the long explanation and the rambling about something that's this simple. But I really, really would like some feedback because I, again, don't have that much experience. Thank you for watching.